I never thought the person who'd destroy me wouldn't be a stranger, but the one I trusted most. It started on a quiet Monday morning, the kind where everything seems normal on the surface, but something deep inside you knows your world is about to shift. My name is Ayan. I'm 29, a marketing strategist living in Lahore, Pakistan. I had a routine, a future, and a woman I thought would stand by me for life, Sana. She was smart, driven, and beautiful in a way that made people stare without meaning to. We'd been together for 4 years, survived long-distance months, celebrated little wins over street food, and talked about building a life together. But that morning, she looked at me with the kind of emptiness that burns colder than hate. "I'm moving to Islamabad," she said softly, not meeting my eyes. "Alone." My mind scrambled for a response. "For how long?" "I don't know, Ayan. Maybe permanently." I laughed, thinking she was joking. "What are you talking about? You just got the job offer here." She finally looked at me and I saw it. The distance. The decision already made. "There's someone else." That sentence broke something inside me, but I didn't show it. I nodded, stood up, walked to the window and stared out like the city might offer answers. She didn't explain more. Didn't need to. That's the thing about betrayal. It's not loud. It's not a scream. It's a quiet unraveling of everything you believed was safe. She left that same week. First, I didn't tell anyone. I went to work like a ghost. I smiled when people asked how I was doing. I even told my mom that Sana was just visiting family for a bit. But nights were different. Nights knew the truth. I'd sit on the edge of the bed, scrolling through old messages, reading and rereading the plans we made. The someday let's visit Turkey texts. The way she'd call me John after long days. The voice notes. The laughter. Felt like someone had died. Except they were still breathing. Just without you. Weeks passed. And just when I thought I'd begun to numb the pain, I saw them together. Sana and him. Holding hands. Smiling. Carefree. He was someone I knew, Adil. My college friend. The same guy who used to crash on my couch after late-night study sessions. I once helped him through his breakup. Listened to him cry over a girl who didn't choose him. Now he had mine. I walked past them like a stranger. They didn't even notice me. Or maybe they did and just didn't care. That night, something changed. I'd been grieving a version of myself I couldn't get back. But now I was angry. Not the type of anger that lashes out. The kind that builds. That fuels. They tried to break me. But I wasn't done yet. I started small. I signed up for a creative retreat I'd always wanted to try, writing, something I hadn't done since college. I hit the gym not to impress anyone, but to fight the heaviness inside me. I stopped drinking 3 cups of coffee a day. I blocked Sana on every platform, not out of hate but healing. And then I met her, Zoya. She wasn't like Sana. She didn't walk into a room expecting attention. She wasn't polished or rehearsed. She was real. Messy, curious, and unapologetically herself. We met at a storytelling event. I'd just read a piece about betrayal, raw, unedited, and bleeding with honesty. When I stepped off the stage, hands shaking, she walked up to me and said, "That was brutal but beautiful. Thank you for saying it." I smiled. "It was therapy, not bravery." "Sometimes they're the same thing," she replied. We started talking. Once a week became twice. Then daily voice notes. I found myself looking forward to the way she described the world. How she found metaphors in trees. How she still believed in postcards. How she hated small talk but loved long silences. With Zoya, I didn't have to pretend I was okay. And yet, with her I started becoming okay. But healing isn't linear. One day, months later, I got a text. "Sana, can we talk?" Just once. And just like that, the past knocked on my door again. I stared at the screen, my heart calm but confused. I hadn't expected closure. I had built something new. And yet, a part of me still needed to know why. That evening, I met her. We sat at a quiet cafe where we used to dream up our future. She looked older. Or maybe just tired. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "Adil and it didn't last. He wasn't you." I didn't say anything. I just watched her. I thought I needed something else. But I realize now you were everything. I nodded slowly. Maybe. But I'm not the same man anymore. She blinked, realizing. I met someone, I added. Her name is Zoya. There was silence. Not the heavy, painful kind. Just the final page of a chapter that needed to end. Sana looked away. I hope she knows what she has. She does, I said gently. And I know what I have too. I stood up. And this time I was the one walking away. But just as I turned the corner outside, I saw her, Zoya, waiting for me. I didn't tell her I'd met Sana. I didn't need to. She looked at me, eyes soft but knowing. You okay? I nodded. I am now. She reached for my hand. I took it. And just as we walked into the night, I realized love isn't about who stays. It's about who shows up when you've got nothing left to give. But there was one more test waiting. Something I didn't see coming. And it would force me to choose between the comfort of healing and the fire of growth. People say time heals everything. But they don't tell you how memories linger like shadows, even in the brightest of rooms. It had been 6 months since I last saw Sana. Life had moved on the surface. I had my routines back, I was working harder than ever, and Zoya, well, she'd become more than just someone I talked to. But healing isn't a destination. It's a process. And sometimes, you don't realize what you're still holding on to until something shakes you awake. Zoya and I had started dating quietly.
No social media announcements, no dramatic declarations.
Just two people trying to understand each other's cracks without rushing to fix them. I admired her strength. How she faced her own demons without letting them define her. She had her own story, one she never spoke of until late one evening. We were sitting on her balcony, the sky burning orange as the sun dipped behind the buildings. She sipped her tea slowly, as if searching for the right words. I was engaged once, she said. I looked at her surprised. What happened? He left. 2 weeks before the wedding. Said he couldn't do it. That I was too intense. There was no bitterness in her voice. Just calm acceptance. I'm sorry, I said quietly. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I'm not. Taught me something. That love, if it's real, doesn't fear intensity. It meets you in it. That night, I realized something. We were both survivors. Not of violence or disaster, but of emotional wreckage. And there's a different kind of courage in rebuilding yourself after someone you loved leaves without warning. Still, there were moments when my past whispered louder than Zoya's presence. I'd walk past the bookstore Sana and I used to visit, and my feet would pause without permission. I'd hear an old voice note buried in my WhatsApp archive, and feel that hollow tug in my chest again. Zoya never questioned those moments. She never demanded I move on faster. But I knew. She felt it. The invisible thread that still connected me to my old life. Then came the job offer. A multinational firm in Dubai wanted me to lead a creative division. Triple my current salary. A dream I used to talk about with Sana. Back when we believed our future was still one future. I didn't tell Zoya about the offer right away. Part of me wasn't ready to face what it might mean. Leaving Lahore. Leaving her. Or worse, asking her to come along when I didn't even know where we were going. But secrets have a way of surfacing. One afternoon she found the letter. Printed. Folded neatly in the side pocket of my backpack. She didn't get angry. I read it, she said when I walked into her apartment. Dubai. I nodded, heart pounding. How long have you known? A week. She took a breath. Were you ever going to tell me? I don't know, I admitted. I didn't want to make it real. There was a long silence. Then she asked, is this about you or about proving something to her? That question cut deeper than I expected. Because the truth is, a small part of me still wanted to be seen. To prove that I'd become someone worth regretting. That losing me had cost her more than she thought. Zoya saw it in my silence. I care about you, Ayan. Enough to let you go if this is what you need. But I won't be a second chapter in a story you haven't finished writing. She wasn't being cruel. She was being honest. And in that moment, I realized I was standing at a crossroads. One road led to ambition, distance, a chance to start fresh. The other led to something softer, scarier, staying, facing the past, choosing a love that wasn't loud but true. But the decision wasn't just about me. 2 days later, I got an unexpected call. From Adil. Of all people. I let it ring twice before picking up. Hey, he said. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but can we meet? Please. I should have said no. But curiosity got the better of me. We met at the same chai spot we used to hang out at during university. He looked worn out. Hair messy, eyes tired, like life had taken a toll he hadn't anticipated. She left me too, he said before I even sat down. Sana? He nodded. Disappeared 3 months ago. No contact. Nothing. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't happy about it. But I wasn't sad either. Just was. Why are you telling me this? He sighed. Because I need you to know I never meant to betray you. We didn't plan it. It just happened. I stared at him, anger and apathy colliding in my chest. And it just ended? He looked down. Yeah. Later that night, I stood on Zoya's balcony again. The sky was cloudless, stars winking above like tiny secrets. She joined me, arms wrapped around herself. What did you decide? She asked softly. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I pulled her close. I decided I'm tired of running. She looked up at me.
I'm staying, he whispered.
Not because I'm afraid to leave, but because you feel like home. Her eyes welled up and she nodded. But deep down I knew the real test was just beginning. Because loving someone after betrayal, that's easy. Trusting yourself again? That's the hardest part. Just when I thought the past had lost its grip on me, it came crashing through the door with the kind of force that makes you question every choice you thought was final. Zoya and I had grown closer in the weeks that followed my decision to stay. We'd started planning small things, a weekend trip to Murray, furniture shopping for my new apartment, which she insisted needed a woman's touch. She was gentle with my hesitations and honest with her own. It was the most real love I'd known. But life, as always, doesn't stay still for long. It began with a message. An email, actually. Subject: urgent medical contact required. It was from a hospital in Islamabad. Sana had listed me as her emergency contact. I stared at the screen for a long time, my pulse thudding in my ears. I hadn't spoken to her in months. She'd vanished from Adil's life, from mine, from everyone's. And now she was back, in a hospital bed asking for me? I didn't tell Zoya right away. I wish I had. But I was scared. Not of losing her, but of reopening something I had buried so deep I thought it was gone forever. By the time I reached Islamabad, it was late evening. The hospital was dimly lit, quiet except for the occasional beep of machines and soft murmurs in the hallway. When I walked into room 216, I froze. Sana lay there, pale and exhausted. Her hair was shorter. Her eyes had dark circles under them, and her once bright energy had dimmed to a flicker. She looked at me and tried to smile. You came. I didn't know who else would, I replied, my voice stiff. There was a long silence. Then she said, I've been sick. For a while. I have an autoimmune condition. They found it late. I swallowed hard. Why didn't you tell anyone? I was ashamed, she whispered. I thought leaving would give me peace, but it just made me lonelier. I sat down, conflicted. The hurt she caused was still there, but so was a piece of my past, the part that once loved her deeply. I didn't bring you here for pity, she added. I just needed someone familiar. And safe. Her words echoed in my mind long after I left the hospital. Back in Lahore, things with Zoya felt different. Not broken but strained. She sensed it before I spoke. You saw her, she said gently. I nodded. And? She's sick. Alone. She asked for me. Zoya bit her lip, then said, And where does that leave us? I didn't have an answer. Not then. The guilt clawed at me. How could I be so sure of someone, and still feel pulled toward another who'd hurt me? Was it compassion or something more twisted? Nostalgia dressed up as responsibility? Meanwhile, work had started to spiral. The Dubai firm hadn't withdrawn the offer, and now they wanted an answer. In 72 hours. It was a once-in-a-lifetime position, but accepting it meant two things: leaving Lahore and most likely leaving Zoya. At night, I'd stare at my ceiling, torn between the love I was building and the past I never truly buried. I started avoiding Zoya. Not intentionally, but emotionally. She felt it. One evening, she came to my place unannounced. I can't do this anymore, she said, her voice shaking. I turned to her, startled. Do what? Wait for you to decide if I'm enough. Her eyes welled up. You told me you were done with that chapter, Ian. But you're still flipping the pages in your mind. I can feel it. And I deserve more than being your comfort zone. My silence confirmed her worst fear. She stepped back. If you need to go to her, go. But don't come back until you know who you're choosing. The door closed behind her with a finality I wasn't ready for. And just like that, I was alone again. The next morning, I got another call from the hospital. Sana had relapsed. I drove back to Islamabad, my heart heavy with the weight of too many decisions. When I arrived, she was asleep. The nurse told me she'd asked for me again before she slipped under sedation. I sat beside her and looked at the woman who had once held my entire future in her smile. I remembered our old plans, the dreams, the way we'd laugh until we cried. But I also remembered the betrayal. And suddenly, the nostalgia cleared like fog lifting from a valley. I wasn't the same person anymore. I hadn't come here out of love. I'd come out of compassion, and a need to close the loop that had haunted me for too long. When she woke, she whispered, "Are you still here?" I smiled softly. I came to say goodbye. Properly this time. Her eyes brimmed with tears. I understand. I left her with a promise that she'd be okay, even if I wasn't the one by her side. On the drive back to Lahore, the sun began to rise. And for the first time in years I felt free. But when I got back to my apartment, Zoya was gone. Not just physically, she had blocked me. No texts. No missed calls. Nothing. That's when the panic set in. 'Cause now, I knew who I wanted. And I might have already lost her. The silence in my apartment was louder than any argument we'd ever had. Zoya was gone. And she didn't just leave her scarf on the couch or her books on my shelf. She left completely. Vanished. Blocked. Muted. No trace of her voice, no trail of her smile. And that was the first time I truly panicked. It wasn't heartbreak, it was realization. I had waited too long to choose, and the one person who never made me question my worth had walked away, because I made her feel second best. The timing couldn't have been worse. My phone was still buzzing with emails from the Dubai firm. Final call. 24 hours. All they needed was a yes or no. A choice between a shiny, well-paying future, or staying in the messy, uncertain present alone. But the choice that really mattered wasn't about location. It was about Zoya. I had lost her because I hesitated. Because I let the past confuse my heart when it had already made a decision. I spent hours trying to reach her. I went to her apartment. Her flatmate said she'd gone to Karachi. No return date. I tried calling from another number. Nothing. It felt like I was chasing a shadow of what I'd ruined. And then came the letter. Handwritten. Left at my doorstep. Ian, I loved you honestly. I gave you my trust, my hope, my belief in something real. But love doesn't survive in places where doubt grows. I saw the way you looked when you came back from seeing her. I waited for you to tell me it meant nothing. You didn't. So I made the decision for both of us. You once said I felt like home. But I can't be your shelter if your heart still lives in someone else's storm. I wish you peace. I wish you clarity. But I don't wish to be found. My hands trembled as I read it. She was gone. I sat on the floor surrounded by the quiet ruins of what we'd built. Her canvas tote bag still hanging on my chair. Her favorite ceramic mug in the kitchen. One of her earrings lost between couch cushions. I wanted to scream. To go back in time. To undo that hesitation. To tell her it was her all along. But love doesn't wait forever. Still, something inside me refused to let go. Because if this was the end, I had to fight for it. Not with apologies or explanations. But with truth. That night I didn't sleep. I opened my laptop and started writing. Not a message. Not a desperate plea. But a story. Our story. I poured everything onto the screen, the way we met, the balcony talks, the way she made grief feel survivable. I wrote about the fear of letting go of a past that felt like home, and the painful realization that home had changed. I ended the piece with a single sentence. You didn't break me, Zoya, you built me. And now I'm standing on what you created. I just hope it's not too late to return to the foundation. I posted it anonymously on a storytelling platform we both followed. She loved reading there. If fate was on my side, she'd find it. Hours passed. Then a day. Then two. No response. I accepted the Dubai offer. Not out of excitement, but because I couldn't sit still in a city where everything reminded me of her. My flight was in 48 hours. The apartment looked different with everything packed. Sterile. Cold. I stood on the same balcony where she once told me, "Love meets you in your intensity." And I felt hollow, until I heard the knock. Soft. Hesitant. Like a second chance trying not to scare me. I opened the door. Zoya. Wearing a black shower camise, hair loose, eyes swollen, but burning. She looked at me and said, "You wrote that piece." I nodded, too stunned to speak. "I knew it was you," she whispered. She stepped inside, looked around. "So you're leaving?" "In 2 days." Silence. Then she said, "You told the truth in that story. Not for sympathy. Not to win me back. You told it for you. That's the man I loved. Still loved." I heard it in her pause. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Me too." Another silence. Then I asked the only question that mattered. "Will you come with me?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she walked toward me, closer, until we were inches apart. "I will," she whispered. "But only if you know what you're choosing." I looked into her eyes, the only place that ever made me feel sure. "I choose you." Her lips trembled. "Then I'm not running anymore." And just like that, everything shifted. But there was one more person I had to face. I picked up my phone, dialed the number I never thought I'd call again. Sana. She picked up, her voice tired. "Ayan. I wanted to say thank you for what we had. And goodbye. For real this time." A long pause. Then she said, "I'm glad you found your peace." I hung up, no bitterness in my chest. Just closure. For the first time in a long time, everything felt aligned. Zoya said yes. She would come with me. Not out of fear of losing me, but because she believed in what we were building together. We spent that night side by side, not saying much, just holding on to the peace we both fought so hard to earn. The next day, we booked her ticket to Dubai. The plan was simple. She would take a short leave from her gallery job, join me for the move, explore her options, and if things worked out, she'd consider relocating permanently. For the first time, our future didn't feel like a fantasy, it felt real. Possible. But peace has a way of testing you when you least expect it. It was the morning before our flight. Zoya was in the bedroom, packing her sketchbooks and her favorite paints, humming under her breath. I was going through my emails when something caught my eye. An unread message. Subject. Story rights inquiry. Built from Broken. It was from the storytelling platform where I'd posted the anonymous piece about Zoya. Confused, I clicked. "Dear Ian, this is to confirm receipt of your publication agreement. As per our discussion, we are thrilled to share that your story, Built from Broken, will be adapted into a short film for our new series. The contract has been signed and approved by you, and filming begins next week in Lahore. Once again, congratulations on being selected. Best editorial team." I blinked. What contract? What filming? I hadn't signed anything. I hadn't even logged into the account since publishing the story. I scrolled down. Attached was a PDF. Signed digitally. By me. Except it wasn't my signature. A chill ran down my spine. I checked the account login history. Last access, 3 days ago. From an IP in Lahore. When I was in Islamabad, visiting Sanaa. I froze. There was only one person who had access to my laptop while I was away. Who knew my password. Who had the motive to make sure Zoya saw the story I'd written. Sanaa. I stood up, heart pounding. I went to the bedroom. Zoya was folding a scarf into her suitcase. I said her name softly. She turned. "Yeah, I need to tell you something." She looked up, instantly sensing my tone. I explained everything. The email. The fake signature. The fact that someone else had sent in the rights and monetized the story without me knowing. Zoya didn't blink. Her voice was flat. "You think Sanaa did it?" She was the only one who had access. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she sat down slowly. "Ian, there's something I haven't told you either." My stomach sank. She reached into her bag and pulled out a phone. Not hers. "Sanaa left this at the hospital." One of the nurses gave it to me when I visited again. I went back. I stared. You what? I wanted closure too, she said quietly. I needed to see if the version of her in your head matched the real one. And she wasn't who I expected. She handed me the phone. Check the voice memos. I hesitated. Then I pressed play. If he doesn't choose me, I'll make sure he still thinks of me every time he wins something. Every time someone praises his work. I want him to wonder if I was the one who helped him get there. I'll be the voice in the back of his mind forever. That's enough. My breath caught. Zoya looked at me, her eyes heavy with disappointment. She used your story as leverage. To stay relevant in your life. To keep a piece of you. Even when she was no longer welcome. I couldn't believe it. Or maybe deep down, I always knew she wasn't finished. But the worst part wasn't what she did. It was what it almost cost me. I looked at Zoya. Guilt flooding every part of me. I should have seen it. I should have never let her back in, even for a second. Zoya's face softened. You're not the only one who had a blind spot. I wanted to believe she'd just disappear. But people like her don't let go. They linger. We sat in silence. Then she asked, do you still want to go? I nodded slowly. Only if we leave together. And only if we never look back. Zoya smiled faintly. Then we burn this chapter. For good. That night, we deleted the account. Wiped the story offline. I messaged the editorial team with proof of forgery. The contract was voided. I didn't hear from Sana again. But somehow, that felt like victory. Not the kind you celebrate loudly. The quiet kind. The kind you earn by surviving all the ways someone tried to break you. And choosing love anyway. We didn't sleep much the night before the flight. Not because of fear or anxiety. But because we were finally at peace. The truth was out. The illusions shattered. And in the quiet aftermath, what remained between Zoya and me was real. Raw, imperfect, but solid. I watched her sleep for a while. Her chest rising and falling in a slow, steady rhythm. It hit me then. How close I'd come to losing her. How a single hesitation could have cost me the only love that made me feel seen. She stirred as the first light crept in through the curtains. You okay? She asked, her voice still soft from sleep. Yeah, I whispered. Better than okay. We packed in silence, occasionally exchanging tired smiles. The cab to the airport was set for 9 a.m. By noon we'd be on a plane, away from everything that nearly broke us. But at 8:12 a.m. my phone rang. It was my mother. I hesitated. We hadn't spoken deeply since everything with Sana unfolded. I hadn't even told her Zoya was coming with me. I answered. Ayan, she said breathless. Beta. Sana's in the hospital. Again. She collapsed this morning. I felt the blood drain from my face. What? She asked for you. Only you. I'm sorry, but I thought you should know. I met Zoya's eyes. She already knew something had changed. What is it? I told her. She didn't speak at first. Then she said, what are you going to do? I don't know. Zoya walked to the window and stared out. You don't owe her anything, Ayan. I know, I said. But a part of me, if I don't go, it'll feel like leaving something unfinished. She turned to me, pain in her eyes. What about us? Don't we deserve to be finished too? I nodded slowly. I just need an hour. I'll go. Say what needs to be said. And I'll meet you at the airport. She studied me for a long beat, then reached for her bag. 1 hour. I won't wait longer. I left heart-torn. Not out of love for Sana, but out of a need to put an end to the version of me that still felt responsible for saving people who let me drown. The hospital was a blur. When I walked into her room, she looked thinner than before. Pale. Hooked up to monitors. She opened her eyes when she heard me. You came. I nodded, unsure of what I was feeling. Why did you ask for me, Sana? She tried to sit up, winced. Because I needed to say goodbye. Properly this time. I stared. I've done terrible things, Ayan, she continued. To you. To myself. I sabotaged the one good thing you had. Because I couldn't handle watching you be loved better than I ever knew how to. I said nothing. I forged the contract. I wanted to be in your life even as your mistake. That's how broken I was. Tears slid down her cheeks. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just needed you to know. I never stopped loving you. But I've finally accepted that love isn't enough. Not when it damages everything it touches. I took a breath, slow and steady. Thank you for telling me. And forgive you. But I don't love you anymore. She nodded, eyes wet. That's okay. I stood. Goodbye, Sana. As I turned to leave, she whispered, don't be late. She's worth it. I rushed out, heart racing. Checked my watch. 9:06 a.m. The airport was 20 minutes away on a good day. Traffic, of course, was a mess. Every red light felt like a punch to the gut. I sent Zoya a voice note. I'm on my way. Please wait. No reply. I reached the terminal at 9:42. She was standing by the check-in counter. My lungs burned as I ran to her. She turned when she saw me, and I knew right away. She had been seconds away from walking out of my life. I made it, I gasped. She crossed her arms. You almost didn't. I know, I said. But I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere unless it's with you. Her eyes scanned mine for truth. For certainty. I stepped closer. She let go. For real this time. And now I can too. Silence. Then she said, last chance. Are you choosing me because she's gone? Or because I'm who you want to build something real with? I didn't hesitate. You are the only thing that ever made me want to be better. Tears welled in her eyes. Then let's go. We boarded the plane minutes before takeoff. As it climbed through the clouds, Zoya reached for my hand. You're sure? She whispered. For the first time in my life, I said. And as the city shrank beneath us, I realized this wasn't just the end of one story. It was the beginning of something entirely ours, unshaken, undeserved maybe, but earned. But I never saw what was waiting at the Dubai airport. A man in a suit with a clipboard, holding a sign with my name. And next to him, a woman I didn't recognize. She walked up to me and said, You don't know me, but I'm your sister. I stood there in the middle of the arrivals terminal in Dubai, Zoya by my side, and the words echoed in my ears. You don't know me, but I'm your sister. For a second, the world seemed to freeze. She looked just like my mother. Same almond eyes. Same dimple when she offered a nervous smile. Behind her stood the man with the clipboard, the HR rep from my new company, clearly as surprised by the personal reunion as I was. I finally found my voice. What do you mean, sister? She stepped forward slowly. My name is Ariba. I'm your half-sister. We share the same father. The words hit like thunder. I felt Zoya squeeze my hand. She was giving me space, not pulling away, just grounding me. I don't understand, I said. My father passed away when I was 9. My mother never mentioned anything about. She didn't know, Ariba said softly. My mom kept me away after he left us. I only found out about you recently. After I started digging into my birth records. I didn't want to shock you like this, but when I heard you were arriving in Dubai, I had to try. It wasn't a trick. Her eyes, her trembling voice. Everything about her felt true. And suddenly, another layer of the past unraveled. We talked for an hour at the cafe just outside the airport. She told me about her life. Raised in Sharjah. Always feeling like a piece of her story was missing. We had both grown up feeling abandoned, confused, unsure of why we weren't enough for the people who were supposed to love us first. And now here we were. Strangers by circumstance. Family by blood. When we finally said goodbye with a hug that carried years of questions, we promised to stay in touch, to not let this chance pass by. And just like that, a closed door from my past reopened, but this time in a way that healed instead of hurt. Zoya and I settled into our new apartment later that week. Life wasn't instantly perfect. We had to learn new rhythms, new routines, new expectations. But what stayed consistent, what remained unshakable, was our commitment to honesty, no matter how uncomfortable it sometimes felt. Zoya got a temporary placement in a Dubai gallery, and her art started receiving the recognition it always deserved. I took the creative lead role, not because I wanted to prove anything, but because I had finally earned the man I was becoming. We never spoke about Sana again. Not out of avoidance, but closure. I eventually got a message from her, just a single line. Thank you for being kind when you had every reason not to be. I'm learning how to be better too. That was the last we needed. One evening, weeks later, Zoya and I sat on the rooftop, watching the city lights shimmer. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Do you ever miss the life we left behind? I thought for a moment. Then I said, I miss the person I used to pretend to be, but not the man I've become. She smiled. Good. Because this version, he's everything I waited for. And just like that, the storm was behind us. Not every ending has a twist. Sometimes the real victory isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's choosing peace over chaos, love over fear, growth over pain. I was broken, but I wasn't destroyed. And with the right person by my side, I didn't just rise, I became.